Welcome to the Image File Podcast. I'm Chris Cohen, former news photographer now practicing the art of landscape photography. In this episode, I go back to earlier this year when I spoke with Olympus Visionary and adventure filmmaker Chris Eyre-Walker. I had intended to release this early in the year, but 2020 kind of derailed things for everyone. Chris was in New York before the world shut down, and I managed to talk to him about how he got his start as a pro photographer and developed a relationship with Olympus. His insight will help anyone with a quality portfolio who might want to work with brands. We also dig into the versatility of the Olympus line of Micro Four Thirds cameras and how these diminutive powerhouses help Chris capture compelling images along frozen peaks and windswept dunes. Disclosure, I own some Olympus gear, so we do get a little excited about the equipment. But I know that we wouldn't speak so highly of this stuff if we didn't really believe in it. Also, not sponsored, but hey Olympus, let's talk? Here we go, an interview with Chris Eyre-Walker. So how's New York?
Good. I'm here to visit a friend, so it's a holiday for me, which is nice.
If you go by your videos and Instagram, it seems you're always somewhere on some amazing holiday thing, but that can't possibly be the whole picture, is it?
I'm going to say it's holiday. It looks like holiday, but it's actually work.
Yeah, especially what was that one where you tried to, or you were bringing the EM5 III with you? And how many places did you get to?
So we did 24 hours in Belgium, and the goal was to take 24 photos that summarize what Belgium's about.
I know Belgium's small, but still,
yeah. I mean, it's doable. But yeah, we were up for 36 hours because we had the day before it, and then we went straight into the 24-hour project. So we're pretty exhausted after that.
And then all the Africa stuff, you're just all over the map. Literally.
Yeah. It was a hectic year.
How did you get from I like photography to suddenly I'm with a film crew of my own in Africa to all this stuff?
It was like, for me, it started as like just a hobby, you know, and when in 2012 or 13, early 2013, I moved to Australia to live with my then girlfriend. And that sort of was like my opportunity to like just reset life, you know, and go out and try and become a professional photographer. And it's always been my goal to like travel and somehow make travel pay. And I thought photography would be a great way to get there. So I started assisting other photographers, shooting weddings and things like that. And then I got a job in a studio, and basically I was a full-time product photographer. And then I started shooting surf left and right. So in the mornings and after work. And yeah, kind of worked my way into surf photography. I scored like an internship with Chris Burkhardt.
Okay.
And so he's known for his Arctic surf photography. And I wanted to, become a surf photographer.
Arctic surf?
Yeah. So Under an Arctic Sky, you might have seen on Netflix, or it's like a surf film in Iceland.
I remember years ago reading something in the Anchorage Daily News about some guys who were surfing in like crazy wetsuits in the middle of winter off the Aleutians and crazy.
That's him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I know who that guy is.
Yeah. So,
and you scored a gig with him?
Yeah. So I was interning for him. I was in his office for, replying to emails, seeing the back end of his business. So it wasn't as much like traveling with him and shooting all these crazy things, but more just handling the business side of things. Mm-hmm. And I did that for three and a half months. And that's sort of like, that's where he told me, like, look, like surf photography is a small industry and it's going to be really tough for you to, break into that. And then, like, realistically, if you want to do this like photography thing and travel thing, then maybe you should go beyond surf. So I started shooting like travel stuff as well, and landscapes, of course. And like, I'm from Belgium originally. So I didn't grow up on the coast. The beach was like 3.5 hours drive away. So I never really had anything to do with surf. It's just some idea I got into my head when I was in Australia. I was like, I want to do surf photography. I love being out in the ocean and the elements and like just struggling to take good photos. That was like great, but I'm not a surfer. And I had to kind of like face reality and be like, look, I come from like forests and mountains and landscapes, so maybe like follow that path. And I kind of worked my way into that. And logically, like shooting surf with Olympus, obviously, like the camera is so much smaller, the housing's smaller. I went from 23 kilos of camera equipment down to 11, you know, so that made traveling way more realistic. And I was the only one shooting surf with Olympus back then, or that was documenting it. There might have been other people because they're dive housings. They're not exactly surf photography housings. So I was kind of misusing it for that. And but it worked really well. So that's how I got my like link to Olympus. And I built it from there. It's been quite a few years now. I think 2016 I became like a visionary for them. But before then I was obviously shooting with Olympus as well. And like I sold all my Canon stuff and bought Olympus and started documenting it with the purpose of like, look, mirrorless is great. Like this is what it can do. This is what I can do with it. But also like knowing Olympus is a much smaller brand that I could like potentially get to work with, and keeping that in mind, you know, documenting it and showing off how well the system worked for me was also a nice way to knock on Olympus's door and go like, look, guys, you know. So it was kind of the purpose of that was like twofold, you know, showing what it was capable of and that I really loved the system, like genuinely thought it was great, and at the same time like show that how serious I was about it towards Olympus.
That's something like a lot of online photographers kind of, you know, and I call them online because they usually have like some kind of strong online presence. There's still a lot of guys out there who, you know, guys and girls just website doing their work. They're not out there, you know, on YouTube or, you know, maybe delving into Instagram. But a lot of these online photographers are like, oh, I'd love to be some kind of ambassador or whatever, that thing. So that's, there's only a few ambassadors in each brand essentially. Yeah. So, but you kind of almost put together a documentary kind of series almost that, like you say, got you to open the door. But how else did that process unfold? Did you go, hey, look at this? Or did somebody go, whoa, we see what you're doing and we like it? Yeah,
it was two ways. So like, I get a lot of people asking like, oh, how can I be an ambassador? How can I be a visionary or whatever it is, you know, how can I work with this brand? And I'm like, you're thinking about it the wrong way. Like you should be doing unique, you know, the best possible work you can achieve, and then go out and just do it, you know, and the brands will follow. They will find you. If your work is like exceptional, or if you're doing something no one else is doing, then the brands will find you. And that was still like my approach to it. Like I was shooting surf with it and I fully knew no one else was doing it. So I was trying to document my process and my experience as well as possible. That's how I got their attention. But then at the same time, you know, it's business, like be smart about it. Like I went to photo conventions and made sure that Olympus saw that I was present and, you know, introduced myself. And it was a two-way thing. So they would go like, I said like, oh, well, you know, I'm Chris, I'm shooting surf with your photography housings, love the cameras, you know. And then Olympus went, well, we fully know who you are. Like we're definitely reading your blog. We're following you. Like we've got an eye on you, you know. So it's a two-way thing.
But that's like, yeah, that's pretty exciting, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's cool when a brand goes like, oh yeah, we know who you are. You know, that's like nice.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not, it shouldn't be the goal. You know, nowadays I'm fully like it's great to be associated with Olympus, but it shouldn't affect what I do or how I do things. And I really try to stay away from like branded content. And for example, the 24-hour project with Olympus, like we didn't say a single word about the camera, because I find that's like sort of a reaction towards how people nowadays just work towards getting brand deals and sponsored here and like being an ambassador for this and that. And you think about like, why do you want to be an ambassador? Like they don't even know why, you know? So I sort of want to go back towards the other ways, like just do awesome photography, go out, take the equipment, take whatever it can do and like be creative with it and like show that's what photography is about, you know? The Olympus part of it is just, yeah, of course I have to use a camera and Olympus is a great camera and, you know, I'll just go out and do my best with it. But like, I don't want to be like the face of Olympus, you know, I just want to create awesome work. People follow it and they realize I shoot with Olympus and they go buy Olympus because they're inspired by what I do. That's cool. But it doesn't have to be, you know, buy Olympus, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You're just, it's like there's like a aligning of kind of values, I guess. Like you appreciate the products for what they are. They help you do what you need to do. And obviously the brand appreciates what you do and likes that you inspire people to check out their brand, right? So whereas like you see so many people online these days and it's like, You've just reviewed 17 different gimbals, and are you a brand rep for most of them? How does that work?
I know. And it's like, especially on like platforms like Instagram, where one week the guys are shooting for Olympus, the next week they're shooting for Huawei mobile phones and, raving about image quality here. And then they're shooting for Nikon. And you're like, dude, who do you even believe in? What do you believe in your own words anymore?
And then when you
totally lose credibility.
And then when you just see a picture of them sipping coffee, you're wondering, like, is that shirt a sponsor of this? Like, what is going on? I don't even know anymore. I unfollow.
Yeah, they just turn into billboards, and I really, really want to go the other direction. Try and be someone that creates awesome stuff. And regardless of the tools, I'll just mention the tools that work for me. Yeah. And, if that inspires people to go out and buy those tools, that's cool. If not, then that's not my problem,
Yeah,
I don't want to be a sales guy for Olympus. That's not my goal.
I had already arrived at that stuff from a friend's recommendation. He was a news shooter too, and he got rid of a ton of Canon gear, and he said you should try out the OMD EM5. I did. It's so tiny. It was so liberating, and then so I'd already been in, gotten rid of everything and gone into Olympus. So that's how I found you. I was looking for somebody to not only show me what to do, how these things can be used, but hi vent. There's a vent in the ceiling there. But it's not only show me what can be done with these things. I mean, anything can take a good picture, but I mean, it's just nice to kind of validate by seeing a couple of people. That's why when I saw your shots, it's oh, okay, cool. Cause I did honestly think this was kind of a dinky little thing, but I'm still this thing's 6 years old, I think. And I still get great shots out of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I keep saying. I've never had a client complain that there's too much noise in my shots when people go oh, Micro Four Thirds, this and that. It's it's bull, really. It
is. It's
what Steve McCurry shot, the Afghan girl, one of the most iconic portraits in the 70s or 80s or whenever he shot it on film. No one complained about image quality then. Why are we talking about image quality? Just go out and shoot.
Take the shot. If I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. If there's a good image, your first reaction should be to that image, not your first reaction shouldn't be to zoom in and pixel peep it.
Yeah,
because what did you? No, just don't tell me about the pixel pitch or any of that, or just tell me, what did you think of the image when you first saw it? Oh, I can't say, I have to pixel peep. Okay, get out of here. I don't care what you think, right? But
I even shot the EM5 campaign for Olympus, so that 24-hour project was completely shot on JPEG because they couldn't process the raw files, and I was going to do an exhibition the next day. So I shot everything in JPEG, and some of the shots are noisy because half of the time it was dark.
Yeah,
we did the exhibition. We printed them huge, right? And the whole point was to show off you can print this stuff big, and you can print it big, and. I had about 100 people come to the exhibition and no one complained about the image quality. People were saying, wow, these images look so sharp and crisp and nice. I was well, there you go.
Yeah.
They're JPEGs shot with a camera that's not released yet, But so it's
that's exactly it though. You can print, I remember shooting with my Nikon D2H back in the day, and that was a 4.1 megapixel camera. And we were still printing full page stuff, for some of our magazines. And it, on newsprint, you can print anything on newsprint pretty much, but my goodness, I was blown away by the sizes you could get out of 4.1 megapixel. And what do we have now? 20 plus?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on,
So it's this endless discussion about pixels and gear, and it's just go out and do it. A lot of people just forget. You can go out with your iPhone. It takes great photos as well. Any smartphone,
Yeah.
But people I don't know. But of course, it's also the brands and the industry deciding, they want us to talk about this stuff because that's the only reason you'd buy a new iPhone. If you listen to Apple presenting new phones, it's they talk about cameras 90% of the presentation. Because that's the only thing that's really improving. And the improvement's so small,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so they have to make people believe that it's so important that those extra megapixels or those, I don't know, whatever they talk about is worth it, worth
14 lenses,
fully functional phone away.
Yeah.
Spending another $1,500 on a new one. They have to make money. So there is that side, but I don't know. Just go out and shoot.
But YouTube kind of rewards that gear talk, where you...
It does, yeah.
Like, have you noticed that on any of your videos where because I mean, you did quite a long video there about the EM1X, and then you've talked about your camera stuff, others, not so much as others at all, but
yeah.
Have you noticed those videos?
I'm not a review channel, right?
Yeah.
Like the reason I did the EM1X thing was because I was anticipating on the launch day that Olympus had obviously given a week in advance. They give all the prototypes to all the reviewers, and then they go out and spend like an afternoon and shoot it, and then they give it a verdict. Yeah. But I find after shooting with Olympus for so many years that those reviewers they don't know anything about the camera and what it's meant for or how it's, how it works. They don't really know it. Yeah. And I wanted to bring out a review that's like, okay, I've had this camera for 6 months. I've shot the campaigns with it. I've shot, in the Arctic. I've shot in the desert. I've shot in the rain. I've shot anywhere with it. Yeah. And this is my real world review with it, how I used it to shoot the things that I shot with it. And not like, oh, it's got that many megapixels or this and that. Of course, you have to mention some of those things, but show off the new features and how it works for my type of line of work. And that was sort of I told Olympus, look, let me just make this thing. I'll let you guys check it, make sure the facts are straight, get it all good. And then I'll release it on the launch day. And, it's going to be a long video, but anyone who's interested in how this camera works in a real world scenario for a professional is going to enjoy this video. So that's what sort of was my promise towards them. And that's what I kind of wanted to deliver. And then you go out and look at the reviews. The 10-minute reviews, like, it doesn't do this. And some people don't even talk about their handheld high-res mode or things that
crazy.
Are like revolutionary, right? Yeah. No one else does it. They're catching up, but no one does a handheld 50 megapixel raw shot, and that for some photographers, that can mean everything. A few weeks ago, I was hiking out in Sweden in the Arctic, multi-day, 5-6 day hike. We had, 25 kilo backpacks. If I was shooting full frame to have that extra resolution to shoot the landscapes, I would have had like an impossible load to carry. So there's a clear advantage. So that's where I like to talk about the feature, but like put it in a real world scenario. So that was sort of what I wanted to get to with that video. And most reviews I do is towards the real world use and not like,
that's more valuable.
Just comparing like two backpacks or whatever, like who cares?
Yeah, that's so much more valuable though, like the real world. Like, look, I've used this over a period of time instead of I got to hold this at a like invite only kind of show thing somewhere, and you see people dismissing it because of that, right? Oh well, it's still micro four thirds, and it's like, yeah, but do you know what this thing can do? I'm still figuring out things that my EM1 II can do that I'm blown away by. Like I've been playing with live comp on it, and I'm just like, that is one of the best Star Trails images I can ever get out of a camera. The image
comes out like clean.
It's beautiful.
Like, how's this possible?
Yeah, I know, it's insane. It's like I've got a like S1 and S1H right now from Panasonic, and they're nice and clean and they're crazy, but like they're like, holy cow, they're massive. And I really like them. Like I'm a Panasonic fan too. My stepdad used to sell Panasonic when I was a kid. So I have a soft spot there. And so it was perfect because here's two camera, well, not necessarily S1, but the Micro Four Thirds system was so happy those two companies played together, Yeah,
it's cool.
But anyway, back to like ambassador stuff.
Yep.
People seem to think like, oh, if I'm an ambassador, I'll just be showered with gifts. As far as I know, you get like a bit of a discount
or for equipment.
Yeah, like say somebody like you might actually get some gear or something. But I know some people that all they get is like a nice discount. And that's great too. But
when I was working for Chris Burkhardt, for example, I guess he's an ambassador for Sony. And he's got 1 million followers on Instagram. He sells cameras like hotcakes, like people are like, oh, what should I buy? He says Sony. And then someone who says that with that amount of following and those kind of photos, people just go out and buy it like without thinking twice about it. Yeah. And he gets, I think it was 30% on Sony gear. Wow. And you're like, well, you guys should be like chucking camera equipment at this guy, as like a return for what he does for the brand. But no, Sony's like, 30%. That's all you're going to get.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it might have changed, now he has almost 4 million followers and whatever. Like he obviously has done a lot for the brand. Maybe he has a better relationship with them now, but this is like 2016 and he was getting 30%.
Yeah.
So like, It's like, wow.
You think he'd be fully sponsored, essentially, like just a free ride. Oh yeah, we have a 600, whatever, that crazy new birding lens or whatever, sports lens. Here's a couple, just be seen everywhere with these.
Yeah, exactly right. But I mean, it's kind of good because that avoids like people becoming like brand babies, like running around with caps saying Olympus on it and like Visionary here and like just like associating themselves too much to the brand. So I think maybe it's a good thing. And I think Olympus is going to go towards that as well, where I get, I don't know, 50% or something on my equipment, but I still have to buy it. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going towards that direction as well. I think it's a better way than just giving, ambassadors stuff, because some ambassadors are not, as good as others when it comes to like selling and being value to the brand. So
they're not as visible, it seems, or out there as much, I guess.
For me as a visionary, I do get equipment, but I only ask for the stuff I need. It's nice. Specifically to me, it changes the way I use my gear and like relate to it. So it's equipment, and if it breaks, I can get it fixed. I don't have to worry too much about it. So the way I treat my gear, I don't treat it like definitely not, but I definitely like use it, and I'll try. I basically tell Olympus, like, been trying to break your new cameras for the last 6 months and I'm not succeeding. So that's good.
Yeah, they're pretty sturdy, aren't they? Well, and you've taken them places too, like dust, like freezing, like all over.
I mean, they advertise weather sealing. It's like a big deal for Olympus. So let me go out and test that. Let me use it in a real world scenario where I'm up on 6,500 meters in minus 35 degrees snowstorm, still using your camera. Like, that's good. If it breaks as a result of multiple trips, that's fine as well. That shows that the camera, it can break and it shows its weaknesses, but it's also like, people love when they contact me. It's like, oh man, you use the camera like everywhere, like you definitely stand for the weather sealing for the camera, and the way you use it like really makes me want to take my camera out and like go into like on an adventure or something. So that's cool, because that's kind of what Olympus stands for. If you have good weather sealing, portability, well, it's made to go out and carry it to wherever you want to go.
One of those Sonys, I don't think they're very, like, I know a couple people, like there's this Gavin Hardcastle, he shoots Sony and he beats his gear up, but it doesn't take the stuff that my EM1II could take, right?
Yeah.
So
that thing's so solid.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 weeks ago, I was in Iceland on a trip with Olympus Germany. Yeah. And we were on a glacier and I slipped and fell on my camera, the M1X with the 12-100. I was like, so we're taking group photo, like the most pathetic thing, and I just went, bam. And my lens was like crooked. It was like tilt shift effect after that. It still worked. Focus, still everything worked. But it just had like the internals had sort of loosened themselves from the externals.
Jeez.
I still used it because it was the only 12-100 I had on me. And I was like, well, how is this thing still working? I just smashed it on ice and landed on top of it,
Nice.
The body is fine. The body has nothing, not even a scratch. I'm like, how is this possible? But then, I mean, I have to say, I just sent the lens in to get it fixed because, I do like it when it's sharp top to bottom.
Yeah. That tilt shift effect is nice for a couple things, maybe.
But not for landscape. Well, it can be great for landscapes. But, I mean, it's still working, which was, that's about as hard of a landing as you can take.
I bet, yeah.
I know, for example, that the EM1X, so the body itself, the robust testing they do is from, I think 1 or 1.5 meters, they drop it onto concrete like repeatedly, and it has to hold that.
Wow.
So that's pretty robust.
That's a good test. I got to try one out briefly at a little mini convention here. I live in Edmonton, Canada, which is like a few hours east of the Rockies. Mm-hmm. Okay. They brought one in, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's I expected it to be larger, right? But it wasn't as bad as I thought. It wasn't as bad as I thought, and it's using like the smaller lenses systems than like all the mirrorless stuff that's out these days. I was actually really excited about it, but I held it for like 5 minutes. Yet some guys are doing reviews off that. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But that you're so right, like that revolutionary handheld high res. That's crazy.
Cool.
How, like, what have you managed to do with that?
I think The most amazing shot was on this backpacking trip in Sweden recently, where I was with another visionary. I was making a film about him as a landscape photographer, but like some of the views we had were just like ridiculous. I was like, okay, I'm going to take photos here as well. So I took a panorama, 6-shot panorama with the handheld high-res.
Oh my gosh.
So I shot like, thing is like my Lightroom like just almost dies, chokes on it, you know?
That's like a gigabyte file.
Yeah. It's huge. But, you know, then I could print that and wrap it around my house.
I was going to say you could wrap a building with that.
So that's cool. And it works like flawlessly, especially with the 12 to 100. It's really cool.
Yeah, that 12 to 100.
That's a solid lens, especially for video. Like the stabilization is ridiculous. The handheld high-res mode is like one thing that's just impressive, but the stabilization, like that, you can do long exposures. Like I don't have a tripod anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just do like 4 or 5 seconds, no problem.
Easy.
You know?
Easy. Like with my M1 I think my record was 10 seconds.
Oh, there you go.
It's just like, are you
like,
freaking kidding? Like it wasn't pixel peeper sharp, but looking at a full screen image, I had no complaints at all.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's the thing though. Sorry.
Yeah. No, and I mean, that's like what people don't really know that much about. And I'd rather like, instead of being out on YouTube shouting about, look at this handheld high res or like long exposure shot, just go out and do it.
Yeah.
And then people see how it happens and they'll be a lot more impressed that way and, you know, more likely to be looking at Olympus after that. So I'd take that approach more than, yeah.
And if you can bring out a system, one lens that'll work, because I mean, especially if you're taking landscape stuff, you know, there's nothing wrong with an f4 lens at all. People, and it's funny, people with other systems, you know, I'm not trying to bag on other systems, but some other systems, you get some of those really fast lenses that you end up having to stop down anyway. You know,
because it's soft or like it's impossible to get anything in focus.
Yeah. And to not have to drag a tripod around, nobody likes stopping and putting a tripod down and leveling everything and, you know, but to be able to just
just
get your shot,
snap it, and then it still looks great.
Yeah, that's terrific. What are you up to? What are you gearing up for right now? Like, what are you going to be? I know YouTube videos they can be quite a bit behind. You know, like I talk to a bunch of YouTubers and they're like, oh, my videos are like 3 months behind where I'm at right now, you know.
I'm ages behind because I've been so busy shooting commercial work this year for a client. I've shot like more videos than ever this year, but they're not on my YouTube channel. So I'm shooting for Wilderness Safaris, which is a big company in Africa. They have 60 odd camps and I'm making the promotional videos for each camp. So we have still got quite a lot of work ahead, but I did 3 trips to Africa this year. More coming up. So yeah, there's nothing's like set in stone. So that's probably what's going to keep me busy the whole coming year, unless the client decides to change the way we work with them, but it's looking pretty good. So that's probably what's going to be in January again. Other than that, I'm actually pretty like relaxed at the moment because I've traveled so much. So I'm like, just happy to not do anything.
Yeah, right.
Like first time ever, like I'm privileged enough to say like, I don't need to travel. And I mean, I love traveling, but if it's, for 18-hour days, 2 weeks straight, then that's not traveling. That's just like hardcore working.
Yeah.
And that's exhausting. But yeah, lots of adventures sort of planned or in the planning stages. I definitely want to go shoot more films. If it's with Olympus or with cinema cameras, whatever it is, whatever's the right tool for the job, get the highest possible quality. But, some places you just have to sacrifice quality for portability. So you find the balance. But yeah, we're thinking about Pakistan, Afghanistan.
Oh, wow. Sweet.
Yeah. What else? I'll be back in the Faroe Islands again, teaching workshops as well. Going to go back to Central Asia, so Tajikistan. Probably going to go to Norway, shoot like Lofoten Islands.
Mm-hmm. So
more like colder and exotic areas.
Yeah,
but
those stands, people don't seem to get out to those, which is nice, because, you don't, it's not necessarily an Instagram influencer place.
No,
but it's beautiful with like the mountains and other stuff going on there. That's sweet.
I'd love to get out there. It's sort of untouched. You can still be like the first to shoot this landscape or village or whatever it is you want to shoot.
Yeah.
And it feels good. I've been talking to friends about this. I'm bored really fast. So as soon as I know I'm shooting something that's been shot before, or if I'm not struggling to take a photo, or if it wasn't a struggle to get to the place to take a photo, then I just get bored. So I want to find stories and projects that really push me, in a physical, mental, whatever way, and maybe push the gear as well. And, come back with real stories that are not, just some Instagram caption.
Exactly. That stuff's
like
so
big scale stuff.
You're sounding like a National Geographic explorer at heart here or something. Is that something you've ever considered, or?
I mean, yeah, it's not a goal. I guess. I mean, there's an honor in working for and with National Geographic, but I find that should be the result of what you're doing. It's not like I want to be a Nat Geo dude.
Yeah.
No, just shoot the thing you're passionate about, and if that happens to align with what National Geographic is interested in, sure.
Yeah.
But if your entire mission and goal is to go to National Geographic, it's like being an ambassador. It's just a title. It doesn't matter. I have a few friends that shoot for National Geographic, and they're just doing their thing. It just happens to be for National Geographic.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I definitely want to do a film, create films again, and go to the adventure scene again. And the Banff Mountain Film Festival is like sort of high on my.
That's just like a few hours from here.
Yeah. So I had one of my films there 2 years ago, and I just want to go back with
that. Was
new,
the highlining film? Sorry, what was that one called again? I just talked to another filmmaker who made a slacklining film called Untethered. Now I can't remember.
Oh, that's Levi Allen.
Yeah, I was just talking to him a few weeks ago now. But
cool.
Yeah,
it was Dreamwalkers. Yeah,
Dreamwalkers. Thank you. Yeah, because yours was up in Scotland, or no? Where the hell was it?
Islands.
Faroe Islands. Yeah. Yeah, and his was just a lot of interesting canyons in BC here and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Those people are crazy. How did you guys... if I was shooting that, I'd be like cringy the whole time. Like my shots would be just, I couldn't do it.
I've never shot anyone doing it like free solo where it's like without safety. Yeah. Most of my friends, they're professionals. They know how to rig this thing and make it backup and safe. And you watch them walk and you're like, it's fine. They're not going to fall and die. And if they do, they're still attached to the highline. So they're just going to dangle and like climb back up, and it's cool. It's actually quite relaxing to watch.
Is it? I guess there's
kind of, yeah.
if you put your mind in with them and their little Zen moment or their balance or whatever they got going, I could see it, but I don't know. I guess I could get used to it, but it's, I don't know.
It's like scary for a minute, and then you realize that they're in full control and that they're in harmony with what they're doing. And, they're probably listening to some music. They're not aware of anything else but that moment that they're on the line, So it's like, it's beautiful to watch them like in this focus. It's nice.
The other part I would just be so giddy to be fortunate to be around that, oh my gosh, I'm covering this. This is cool.
Yeah. I mean, in the Faroe Islands, I was like really like privileged to be there and shoot it. Yeah. And I mean, in Belgium, we often meet up, and it's like public place. Anyone can be there and shoot it as long as you know that it's happening and the guys are out there. Now they're like, oh, we'll be there next weekend, and I'm like, cool, I'll come hang out with you guys.
Nice.
And we just have a nice weekend together. And I'll take a couple of photos of them, and that's it.
Yeah,
it's not as like adventurous as it looks. As
you've developed your career, as you've shot all sorts of interesting things, you've developed these groups of people that are excellent inspiration. And I mean, because when I was doing news, they didn't care how well I could shoot a photo. They didn't care this or that or anything. They were just like, just be at something interesting.
Yeah.
So you're at somewhere interesting. You're shooting something compelling, right? And plus he has skill with it too. But a lot of these people, they just seem to think like, oh, I just gotta I just gotta be the ambassador, and then everything will open up. It's like, no. How about instead of going and buying that like $4,000 set of lenses you don't need, you spend that and go be somewhere watching something compelling.
Yeah.
And throw
totally
that into
true.
your portfolio.
I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah. It's like less and less, but I do get a lot of people asking, you know, like, oh, what lens should I buy next? Like, no. You should know what you want to shoot, and then you know what lens you need. But if you're just buying lenses to figure out what to shoot, then you're just spending money for nothing. You know? Go out and shoot something cool, and then you'll know what lens you need next. You know, if you're shooting climbing, maybe you want that wide angle lens to get really close and feel like you're there. Or if you're shooting highlining, well, the guys sometimes they're, you know, a couple of 100 meters out. You're going to need a long lens for that. Yeah. You know, or there's each shot kind of has its ideal lens to it. And if you know what shot you want, then you know what lens you need. But if you're coming to me and asking like, oh, what lens should I get? I'm like, well, what do you want to shoot? You know, I don't know, everything. It's like, well,
fine. Just get a 12-100 and you'll be happy. Whatever. But no, that's exactly it. Because I started doing some storm photography last summer because I'm out in the prairies here. And I thought I had enough wide angle. And I was like, there's this moment where you realize I need a few more degrees here.
You need a fisheye.
Yeah. So
when the storm's like there, and there.
Yeah. And you're just like, oh my gosh, whatever. I mean, I guess with the EM1X, you just take that one shot of the important part and then just like quickly set some kind of pano.
I mean, you can, but sometimes your gear dictates what kind of shot you can get.
That's exactly it. And you can't predict it all the time.
No. But I think like the whole 24-hour project idea was to have a concept and take that concept and like go execute it. So you have a plan and then go shoot, and not just what I used to do in like previous episodes. I'd be traveling and I was like, I'll make an episode here. You know, I'll make an adventure photography and location episode and just go out and shoot cool photos. And that's really not that fulfilling because you're just shooting for the sake of shooting, and then you're filming it because you know. That's a great way to do business and like grow a following and talk about cameras and make everyone happy. But who's not happy? That's me, because
you're not interested
shooting for the sake of it. You know, so the whole 24-hour project was different, where we're like, okay, Olympus said, hey, do you want to do another review of the EM5 III like you did for the EM1X, but in the next 10 days? I'm like, well, that doesn't work. The EM1X, I had it for 6 months before release. You can't send this camera to me and expect me to do like a 45-minute video on. I'm going to sound like every other reviewer, you know. That's the opposite of what I want. So I said, let's take the budget for this review you want me to do, and let's do a cool project, you know, and not even talk about the camera. And luckily they were like, yeah, that sounds good. You know, I was like, tell me what this camera stands for. And they were like, well, it's adventure, exploration, and freedom, you know, like break free with Olympus is sort of the motto. I was like, well, okay, we have 10 days, you know, we've got this budget. And this is what the camera stands for, what, you know, the symbolism of the camera. I don't have that much budget, so I can't go like to Antarctica and shoot something cool there where it's like break free and go somewhere awesome. Yeah. The camera is geared towards like weekend shooters, like, you know, hobby photographers. So let's do something anyone can shoot. Yeah. And the whole like urgency of the 10-day thing sort of transformed into that project as well. Let's do something where it's like urgent, where there's a certain urgency. Let's do 24 photos, 24 hours. Let's do it in Belgium. I'm in Belgium already, you know, got a car. Let's just drive around and shoot 24 photos. And sort of that came from that. But yeah.
But that's cool because you're compressing so much time with this camera into a short period. So you're getting like you're really going to run into whatever issues and learn it when you're pushing it, especially under a massive time constraint. So, I mean, no, it's not as good as hanging out with it for 6 months, but it's still a really neat, really cool set of limitations you've imposed on yourself, and see if you can meet it all with this little camera, which...
Yeah, like to me as a professional, the challenge is to shoot, you know, is the 24-hour challenge, like having the time constraint and like using equipment I haven't used before. Yeah. It's an Olympus camera. You can give me anyone, you know, it doesn't really matter, but it's a new camera. So there was sort of that aspect for me that was challenging. And that's the reason I did this 24-hour thing. So I was challenged in a way. And then the whole thing of doing it in Belgium and doing it in places anyone can go to, that was like more geared towards the audience for the camera. You know, so there was like, I was challenged and the audience would be challenged in a way as well. If they see it, they're like, that's cool. You know, you can shoot all this stuff with this camera. And this guy happens to be able to do it in 24 hours. Cool. You know? Yeah. So there's a challenge for everyone in there, or like some interesting thing for everyone.
And a little bit of inspiration too, to just go, wow. I mean, he's a pro, but I mean, geez, if this thing works out easily, maybe I can do it too. But what about that crazy, what is it, a 150 to 400? I want
Can't say
that.
too much.
No, fair enough.
Because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
There's some more stuff. They just announced more lenses, which is cool.
There's so many already, I think, but whatever.
I know. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, what do you do with all those lenses? But maybe that's like a challenge, right? Like, let's do something you can only do with that one lens and take 10 photos or whatever and make a short film about it. Or I don't know. That would be a project for Olympus.
But I honestly, I would love to get that 150 to 400 and pop it on my EM1.2, because I liked the stabilization on the EM5, because I got the EM5 the first one. The video was it wasn't bad, but it wasn't. It was okay HD. Yeah. I was really impressed with the stabilization on it, though. And then when I got the EM1.2, I was like, man, they in one fell swoop, they just kind of figured out video, because I really like the quality of the EM1.2 video.
Yeah, it's good. It's great if you want to shoot ready to edit footage, no grading or not too much, you can't push the files because they're 8-bit and on the technical side, they fall short, but the result that they achieve with what's in the camera is pretty nice. Yeah. And I've shot lots of stuff with it. If I think about it, people say, you need Panasonic if you want to shoot video. Yeah. Well, I shot Dreamwalkers with the EM1.2 and some of it with the EM5.2, but most of it EM1.2. That's been screening in cinemas all around the world. Exactly. No one's ever complained about the quality. It goes back to that, Exactly. So do I really need the Panasonic with V-Log here and this and that? Yeah. Do you really need it,
Well, I'm going through this S1H thing. I've been given like 30 days with it, and I'm trying to come up with some review angle on it. And honestly, my review angle so far is this is too much camera for 99% of people out there.
Yeah,
S1H.
That's what I've heard about it.
It's beautiful. It's great. I love it. For anybody who wants to shoot stuff, you could drag out your S1H or you could take out your EM1.2. And yeah, I've graded all this stuff and Vlog and all this, and everything. And it's like, wow, I could bake in a pretty decent picture still on my EM1.2. And I think that would work for most people.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like this fine line or fine balance between, the gear that's the capabilities of your equipment and what you really need to achieve with it.
Exactly.
Do I need this whole slow-mo? And for me, that was always a challenge because the Olympus doesn't shoot decent slow motion. Yeah. The EM1X now does 120p, but it looks horrible. So I don't shoot slow-mo with it. And, then you go on YouTube and everyone shoots B-roll with 120 frames a second, because it's easy. But people forget that they're actually trying to tell a story. They're shooting slow motion of their coffee being brewed. Really?
I was going to say the exact same thing. No kidding. Where's the story? Where is the story? Yeah. You get all these guys that are brewing coffee and it looks cool, but am I watching a Folgers commercial? What's going on? What is the story here? Point? Yeah. I don't care that you got in your car and slow-moed the key turn, and then you got out of your car and went to buy a toilet brush and came back and made coffee. Who cares? I guess if you have millions of followers, you can do whatever you want.
But you'll lose your audience eventually, it's not, they don't stay forever, and they're not stupid. No. They see through bullshit pretty quickly. After a while they do. Yeah. So the whole point of only being able to shoot a decent image in 24 frames per second, cinema 4K is the limitation. And that's where I had to get creative, So I shot a whole movie. The Dreamwalkers thing has not a single scene of slow motion in it. No one complains about that.
No, that's fine. You don't need to, these projects might call for some stuff, right? But you don't need to do it. The people who throw in too many transitions, too much slow-mo, too many slider shots, too many this, it's just used sparingly. It has impact. When it's just there the whole time, it's just barfarama. It's too much to.
Yeah, I agree.
I call those guys B-roll bros.
Sorry?
I call those guys B-roll bros. And it's not because I feel I'm any better than them. It's just, there's just a weird culture of that, and it's.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. And I mean, I just picked up an Ursa Mini Pro G2.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want frame rates? There you go.
I can shoot 160 frames at 4.6K, you know.
Yeah.
And like, I find myself doing it a lot because it's easy, you know.
Well, it's nice to have as an option, right?
Yeah.
Once you're editing.
And the image quality is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Like that's so I don't really shoot video on the Olympus unless I'm shooting for Olympus, because let's face it, you know, I can get 1,000 times more out of the Ursa because it's a cinema camera, you know, and each camera has its purpose. And to me, that's, if I want to shoot video, I happily carry that weight of the Ursa because I fully know what quality I can get out of it.
It looks like you're having a lot of fun with that too.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple guys out there in Africa and get like, I mean, so much potential out there. Maybe it's just because I'm unfamiliar with Africa and stuff, but there's so much beautiful stuff wherever you look almost.
I mean, like, we are privileged to go to, you know, that our client is one of the leading safari company, luxury safari company in Africa. So the possibilities we get through them is ridiculous. You know, they'll fly us in a private plane into the bush where you won't see any other tourist the whole time you're there. You see lions, giraffes, zebras, and all in one moment, all the time. Like, it's better than going to the zoo, like, for the quantity of animals you see.
Oh, wow.
And the variety, you know, it's ridiculous. You're driving, it's like, oh, elephant, and 2 seconds, like, oh, giraffe, oh, zebras, oh, lions, you know, it's ridiculous. So we're like privileged to be able to shoot that and be there. For us, it's just a challenge to make it look interesting. So, you know, we have this insane privilege of having our subjects all there that people like dream of.
Yeah.
Now the challenge for us is, how do we shoot it to make it look as amazing as possible? You know? Yeah. And of course, like, the slow-mo on the Ursa is perfect for it, because sometimes you only get a fraction of a moment of an animal. But if you have that fraction and you can slow it down to like this much, that's great.
But people want, like, you can linger on that stuff. You can linger on these things that are that you don't see every day. You know, you sometimes you're like, darn, I wish the filmmaker just hung on to that for two seconds longer, you know, or whatever. So with slow-mo, you can. That looks like a great system. I was kind of considering that myself.
But for backpacking, I mean, it depends what you want to shoot. If you're out to shoot landscapes or wildlife, then the EM1X with the handheld high res is amazing for, you know, static landscapes. If you want to go print those photos, that's perfect for that. And the autofocus of it, of course, is amazing. You know, it's 100% reliable. I mean, I don't shoot with Sony, Panasonic, and all those other brands, so I can't really say if it's better or worse than the others. But for me, it works. You know, I can be on safari and fully trust that the camera is going to nail the focus. So if you need the good focus in a small, lightweight system with weather-sealed lenses, especially backpacking in probably rainy areas or whatever, where you don't have to worry about the gear, it's perfect. You know, it's the perfect balance between weight, portability, and like weather sealing and quality of image that you can get out of it. Sure, there's cameras that do better image quality, there's cameras that are smaller and lighter, but like, if you combine all those needs that you want when you're on a backpacking trip, then I think the system is perfect. And
that 12-100 is honestly like, you can handhold, stitch awesome high reses, which you were just saying. That's like, some people do want to print this stuff. So
yeah, of course. Know. And the 12-100 is also alongside the 300, probably the sharpest lens Olympus makes for Micro Four Thirds, which is crazy to think that, you know, a 12-100 zoom range can be the sharpest lens compared to some of the prime lenses. But even at f4, it's sharper than, you know, most other lenses. Yeah. And if you think about, Olympus is a lens company, right? They make microscopes in the medical sector. They're like big on glass. Yeah. So obviously they're really great at making good lenses, but people don't know that, you know. And if you're making lenses that are half the size of full frame lenses, and you're still able to capture a 50 megapixel sharp image through that glass, that means you're making really good lenses. Yeah. And if you go back and, you know, Olympus didn't come up with the high res mode before the pro lenses came out. So they knew that when they were making the pro lenses, they have to be a certain quality, because eventually our technology will be able to maybe do this, and we can still shoot,
in terms of like
lenses.
Resolution and other things like that. Yeah. Another thing that I really like about Olympus lenses is, I might have said this already, but when you shoot them at their widest aperture, they're pretty good.
They're sharp.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Like I think I mentioned earlier, some of these other stuff, I mean, they're getting better now with all the other lenses that are coming out now, but I mean, you would have to stop down. It's like, all right, I've got this really great 1.4. It's like, okay, but you got to make it a 2.8 to start seeing decent, It's like, oh, why'd you spend that much on that? Why, oh my gosh.
And the kilo of extra glass that's in that.
And the kilo of extra glass
is like lost, So it's a good balance for all those things, I think.
And I know you've talked about this in some of your videos too, and you shoot a lot with a 12-100 f4. But is that that and a body, like, would you agree, is pretty much will cover almost everything you need to do, unless you,
if you're hiking, like backpacking, for sure. Unless you're going out to stalk animals for a week, then obviously take something longer, because you cannot get close enough, right? But like I said, it all depends on what you want to shoot. Yeah. There's a lens for everything and there's a body for everything. But yeah, I find Olympus with the 12-100, the EM1X, it's like a nicely balanced, not too heavy. You can carry that thing all day and it won't bother, on your shoulder or in your hand, whatever. It's not a problem. And that's exactly the kit I used to film the other Visionary in Sweden. Hiking for a week, 25 kilos, because we had to carry our own food and whatnot. So I was filming him with the 12-100, and almost every single scene is with that lens. I shot some stuff with the 25 1.2 because I like that for filming as well. But on a hiking trip, if you're taking photos, the 25 1.2 is not.
You can take a 25 1.8 even if you wanted.
Yeah, if you really want to take that focal length, Yeah, it's tiny, right? Yeah. It's not weather sealed, but it's tiny.
Yeah.
But I think the 12-100, covers everything I ever do.
Yeah, a lot of your videos too are switching between photos with that, and then some video of you doing your thing, because you were usually carrying, I think, like 2 bodies or something, weren't you?
Yeah,
you got one to record and one to.
I'll always get 2, so we have one to film with. So it's shot and filmed on Olympus, and the other one to shoot with. Yeah.
Yeah. How many batteries?
I only have 1 pro lens of each. Sometimes you're like, all right, okay, swap this one, put that one on, so I can shoot the photo with the 12-100 and then put it back. And
it was nice when I used to shoot news. As much as I hated the weight, I would have one body with a 12-24, and then I would have one body with like a 70-200. Yeah. So I just got it all covered, right, without having to. Yeah. I mean, as simple as it is annoying, I think, switching, but. How many batteries did you bring when you did that Visionary video? Like when you hike in somewhere?
I think I had 8 batteries, 8 or 9. So 2 in the body and 6 spares.
And then,
but I also had a power pack with me, and the EM1X you can charge with the power. USB-C.
Yeah, that's a handy feature, actually. I think if you want to bring like a battery bank or power bank or something, because I don't think the EM1.2 charges.
No, it doesn't.
Through the seaport, because it was like just a little bit before that.
Yeah. So that's cool. But I didn't actually use it to charge the batteries. So I was out for a week with those batteries. But then, you know that you're limited on battery power. So eventually you're like, okay, the way you use your camera obviously changes. You'll switch it off a lot more, and you take it out less often. So you wait for the good light. But luckily in Sweden, in autumn in Sweden, it's like golden hour all day. So
yeah, that's sweet. Gotta love that northern kind of thing going on.
Yeah. And I I put the batteries in my sleeping bag and so on, like maximum heat on them all the time to just preserve, what's in them.
Yeah, for sure. I've had batteries die in like 15 minutes on me, just like from
and then you plug it back in like a few minutes later and it's like 90%.
Like, yeah, exactly. You just put it like inside your coat somewhere for a bit and then swap out as the other.
Put it back in and it's fine. Yeah.
What else? Okay. If you're out out there, say Sweden, filming a Visionary, and you're out for like a week or whatever, you've got, say you've got just the EM1X and the 12-100. Is there any other kind of piece of kit that you think would make that work a little better, or anything you would?
I mean,
because you don't really need a tripod.
I had a drone on me, which I barely used. There's like 2 scenes in the end with the drone, but the drone is like a perspective you cannot get any other way. So that's probably what I had the Mavic Pro 2 or what it's called. Yeah,
one of those.
Yeah, well, whatever.
it flies with a camera.
Yeah. I mean, they're great. It's pretty amazing what you can do with them.
Yeah, for sure.
But then I was in a national park, so I could only film outside of the national park. I'm pretty obedient when it comes to those laws. Like, I know a lot of people watch my stuff, and you don't want to set a bad example. That's not the place to be in, or do that. So I outside of the national park, I used it, and then once we were in, obviously didn't. I mean, what else? I guess a good battery pack, if you do want to charge your stuff, can be good. But then just take more batteries, I guess.
Yeah. But like tripod, doesn't really cross your mind at all, does it, with that?
No. I mean, we took the other guy who was shooting more, he was taking all the photos. He had a set of filters. He had some 5.7 filters from Lee, or what they called. Are they 5.7? 7.5? I don't know. They're like the smaller glass filters they make.
Oh,
they make
yeah, okay. Yeah.
Those are pretty neat. He used some of those. I'm personally not a big filter user, but obviously if you're shooting landscapes full time, you might want to look into filter options.
You can blend.
I mean, we didn't take a tripod, none of us.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Sorry, that's not true. He took a small tripod, but he didn't use it. So I used it when I did an interview of him, but we could have just put the camera on a rock and be fine with it.
Exactly. Well, if you're ever in Canada, let me know when you're shopping around your next adventure film at Banff Film Festival.
I'll be in touch.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever need like adventure inspiration, go to the Banff Film Festival. I don't know if you've been, but
I've never been. I've just observed it from online and stuff like that. So, which is a shame because, like I say, it's 4 hours away.
Yeah, that's a festival to go to, just to see what people are doing and the stories and how they're telling them. And that really makes you realize that story is more important than, gear.
Exactly.
Because some people do most of the stuff's on GoPro or whatever because they can attach the camera everywhere, Yeah. I mean, some of the films obviously shot like Hollywood level, but some of the best, the winning films are not necessarily the ones that have been shot on RE and Red and whatnot. So
yeah, exactly.
Story.
You were there for something compelling.
Story. Yeah, that's a nice way to push people, like tell them that story's important.
Yeah, that's a big thing, and people, it's so easy to just get caught up in gear. Well, I can't tell my story because I don't have a 7-14 2.8.
Yeah.
Move back a bit, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. But
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, have fun in New York.
I'll let you go.
Take care. Thanks again.
Yeah. Nice chatting to you.
Yeah, it was a good chat. Please subscribe and leave a review to help grow this podcast. And don't forget to check out www.theimagefilepodcast.com and consider signing up for the newsletter when that finally goes live. If there are any artists you'd like to hear from, please drop me a line on the website or at Chris Cohen on Twitter, and I'll do my best to feature them in a future show. Until next time, I'm Chris Cohen, and this has been the Image File Podcast.